Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
And I'm Michael.
and today we're really excited for this episode because this is one of our favorite shows, Survivor. And this season was an amazing season, which we'll get into later on. But I just want to hear first, how was your weekend, Michael? It was Memorial Day weekend this past weekend. Just want to catch up. We haven't talked in a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was a nice long weekend. You need one of these every once in a while, you know? I feel like it's been a little while since we've had a long weekend like this, so it was much needed. Recharge the battery, good to go now. And I know you were in New York and you saw Taylor Swift again, which I am so jealous. How was that?
It was amazing. I was visiting some friends in New York and also saw some coworkers, which was really nice. And then also saw Taylor Swift, which was, of course, a highlight. And then got back home yesterday, so it was a fun-filled trip while I was away. But yeah, I just love Taylor Swift so much, and we went to the concert together in Houston, so
Good. How
that
did
was
this one
amazing.
compare?
Yeah. And I feel like each time she performs, I'm just always in awe of how much she's able like, how she's able to do that for consecutive nights
Oh,
and just, like, continuous every week as well, and it's just insane, like, it's just she's amazing. That's all I gotta say.
really is. You would think that she's like AI generated or something with just
Yeah,
how much stamina she has up there, and she's unbelievable.
for sure. Well, hopefully some of you have also gone to see her, or if not, seen TikToks of her because you'll know what we're talking about if you watch those TikToks of all
Yeah,
her videos.
let us know. You know what? We are a reality TV podcast, but we are also a Taylor Swift stan account.
Yeah.
So we're always happy to talk Taylor.
For sure. Well, getting into some of the reality TV news,
Let's get into it.
I saw we have release dates for Big Brother and for the Challenge USA. So Big Brother will be starting on August 2nd. So we have a few months till that starts. How do you feel about that promo or just
You know
that
what?
date in general?
I I don't like it. This feels very 2020 to me because this is how the COVID season of Big Brother was, where they delayed it till August. And then it went into like October, which was fine back then because there wasn't any other TV really on at that time because of COVID, nothing could record.
Yeah.
This time there's not going to be a lot of scripted, but there's going to be so much unscripted during that time. And I'm really curious because it's going to have to run into the fall season of Survivor and Amazing Grace and all that if they've already announced it's going to be on in the fall. And I don't know how that's going to work with Big Brother being also on during that time unless that causes all those shows to also be delayed. But the rumors are that this is going to be an extended season, so it's going to run till October, November. So if they're going to delay the rest, that's going to be quite a bit. Or I don't know how it's going to all work, but I'm just sad because I really thought we were getting really close to Big Brother season, and now it's not.
I
What do you
know. It's gonna be a lot to handle if all those shows are happening all at once.
uh,
Well, I'll have to see how that works out. And then because the Challenge USA is also starting August 10th,
right.
and that's gonna be 2 episodes a week for the first 3 weeks too.
Yeah, for the first 2 weeks, which it scares me a little bit that they're kind of trying to burn through it. I don't know if that means it's not a good season. I don't know what that means. If it means anything, that may have already been in the plans before it even filmed. But yeah, I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know what the situation is there, but I'm excited for it. The first season I thought started out really strongly, had a very controversial end, but I'm always excited for shows like that, you know, all stars that have familiar faces that you know and love. So um, I'm excited for both of them and wish they were sooner.
Yeah. We have to wait till August, which it's honestly crazy that we're, like, basically in June right
I know,
now.
don't even that's wild to me. This year is flying by. But
Yeah. It's okay. Time
yeah,
will pass and we'll get there eventually.
it will, and we will talk about it as soon as it airs. So don't you worry.
Yes.
What
Those
else
will
we
be
got in the news, Molly?
we'll also have the Welcome to Crappy Lake trailer that's coming on July 9th. I know you said it's about Real Housewives stuff. I don't know. I don't watch that.
Yeah,
So,
so it is
excited for that.
Sonia Morgan and Luann de Lesseps from Real Housewives of New York have their own spinoff now. Welcome to Crappy Lake. We talked about the trailers coming for the new reboot of New York Housewives. So wanted to also mention that trailer came out after we recorded the last episode. That's coming, you said July 9th, right?
Yeah.
So got about a little over a month for that. But I know all the Bravo fans will be very excited for that.
Yes. And then going to another Big Brother kind of news was Xavier from Big Brother 23. He just got engaged to his previous girlfriend, now fiance, Kenzie. And
Yeah.
I looked at her Instagram. Doesn't seem like she's from anything. But
Oh
happy for
gosh.
him, and hopefully they get married and have lifetime happiness.
Yes, definitely. I feel like these engagement, marriage announcements, we don't have a lot to say about them necessarily, but it's always exciting.
You know, it's
Um,
nice to see that happening of like people are finding love, which is it's nice
Yeah,
to see.
no, and I feel like especially with Big Brother, you get so attached to these people when you watch them, whether you just watch the episodes 3 days a week or watch the feeds also, especially. And so you feel like those contestants, I feel like on such a deeper personal level than most other shows. So when big life moments like that happen, it's really exciting because you really grow attached to them over those months.
Yeah, for sure. And then I know I was not watching American Idol this season, but how do you say his name? Is it
I am
I
Tom.
am? I am Tongi. Yeah, he just won.
Yeah.
Um, so great. Congrats.
It was great. I American Idol, I don't think I watched every single episode of the season, but I always watch, especially once the live show starts, I feel like is really when I get into it. Um, but he was amazing. And it was interesting because the last few seasons have been won by these country singers, young country guys. They always used to say the white guy with guitar was
Yeah.
kind of the stereotypical American Idol winner because it was always a white guy who played a guitar that all the teen girls voted for.
Mhm.
So there was a country singer in the final three this year that fit that description perfectly that I think a lot of people thought might win, even though I think most people thought that I am was probably the best singer of the bunch. So it was exciting that we got a little bit of a different type of winner this year. And, American Idol is doesn't produce the stars that it used to necessarily, the Carrie Underwoods, Kelly Clarksons of the world, but it's kind of amazing how it's still going pretty strongly after all this time.
Yeah. No, I used to watch it. My first season that I watched it was when Philip Phillips won.
Oh, okay, season 11.
Um, and I was so excited because I voted for him, like, the episodes when it were coming down to the wire, and I was like, "I'm gonna vote for Philip Phillips." I texted, I think the max you could text with, or maybe not max, I don't know if there was a max, but I
I
texted,
think
like,
there was.
500 times for him to win.
Oh my gosh.
But, I mean, there are millions and millions of votes, so, like, I don't know if my 500 mattered at all, but
It
I
did.
felt like
Hey.
part of that show, which I think that also showcased, like, how much, like, engagement there could be with kind of reality TV shows. I feel like with that and, like, Dancing with the Stars you can vote for, and The Voice. I don't know if you watched The Voice at all, but I used to watch The Voice and I was really into it for the first few seasons, and I haven't really been keeping up with, like, the music type
Yeah.
of reality shows lately, as I haven't been watching American Idol either, but those shows, like, honestly, like, it's exciting because then you're really if you find someone that you really wanna root for and
Yeah.
they make it there, then you feel, like, really excited for them once they do win, and you're excited to see their music and how it's gonna evolve in their future. Um, which I feel like nowadays, like, there's just so many people out there with music, and TikTok is kind of growing in that way of, like, people can become famous from that they don't really need to go onto a TV show.
Right.
But it's still interesting to see, like, that you get that platform, then you can bring it over to social media if you want, or just, like,
Yeah.
however you can. But,
Well, and you see
yeah, so
a
overall,
lot
like,
of
I mean, it's great. There's so much talent out there, so I'm glad we get to see it.
oh yeah. A lot of contestants these days on American Idol kind of have a little bit of a following already on TikTok. I'm trying to think of her name from a few years ago that I'm not going to think of her name, but she only made it to like the semifinals, I think. But she had a pretty big following on TikTok already, and then now in the last couple years after the show, she's had a pretty big song, and I wish I could think of her name, but I don't know that I'm going to think of it. But Whoopi Goldberg just the other day on The View actually kind of had this statement where she said she American Idol she thought was the downfall of society when it started, that everyone thought that they could, have an influence on everything and that, everyone's opinion matters. And I don't know that I agree with that, but it's funny that, we're mentioning that right just a couple days after she kind of had that controversial statement that got picked up. Yeah, I voted one time, season 5, Kelly Pickler. All my friends know that I was obsessed with her. I was in 5th grade, and I voted for her one time. It was the only time I've ever voted, and she got eliminated after never being in the final 3. She was eliminated that week, and I've never voted since.
You have trauma from
I,
voting.
I am cursed. I will never vote for my favorite contestant again. But no, American Idol was probably the very first reality show that really got me into reality TV. Season 3 was the first season that I think I watched with Fantasia and Jennifer Hudson, and some big names came out of that one. Um, but yeah, I really, there was, I feel like, a period of time for a couple years towards the end of the Fox era before it moved to ABC that I really didn't watch much. But I think it's a testament to the fact that American Idol has been on so much longer than The Voice, and the ratings now are higher than The Voice. This last season that they went up against each other, American Idol is beating The Voice, and I think it's a testament to the fact that American Idol only has one season a year, versus The Voice has two. And I think that a lot of shows that have 2 seasons a year burn out really quickly. The Masked Singer had a similar fate, really, that it was so big just a few years ago, and then it's fallen so far recently. Because I think when it's one season a year, it's kind of like the Olympics. If the Olympics was on all the time, you get tired of it. But because it's only on every other year, it's something you look forward to. And I think American Idol and Big Brother is the same way, where it's only on once a year and the season's pretty long, but it's something that there's such a long break that you really get to be excited for it and you look forward to it coming back. And so I think a lot of shows don't realize that you really kind of need that waiting period. You can't always have it on 20, every week of the year, because very quickly people will get burnt out.
Yeah, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Exactly. And I think that's a value that a lot of networks, a lot of shows don't understand. And they find out quickly that
Yeah, like how we were feeling lately with bachelor shows of just like, okay, another
exactly
one, like we need a break. And now we have a little bit of a break, but which
right.
actually is coming up soon now though. June 26th is really coming up for Bachelorette
Well,
premiere,
and we
but
have
it's
Bachelorette.
felt nice to have a break.
It is, but they haven't really learned anything from it, because
No.
coming up soon you have Bachelorette, Paradise, and The Golden Bachelor all coming this fall.
It's gonna be a
So
lot.
it's going to be a lot. And then Bachelor, I'm sure, will start in January like it always does. So it's going to be a long time without a break. So enjoy it now.
Take in this next month without any bachelor shows.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think that's if we have for the news, right? So should we
Yeah.
end the
Let's
Survivor?
Yeah, and today we're themed. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're wearing our Survivor gear. I have a buff that I actually got for Halloween this past year that I was wearing. I wore this with my friend Shauna. She also wore a buff. And we were just like Survivor contestants. Someone actually at our Survivor, the party that we went to for Halloween, like thought that we were on Survivor. I was
Oh
like,
my God.
no, but that would
I
have
have
been cool. Um,
I have a funny story about that. While you bring it up, one of my friends, Nicole, shout out if you're watching or listening, she pulled a prank a few years ago, a long time ago, um, after the finale of one season, I can't remember, where she posted on social media right after the finale, and they showed the little preview for the next season, and she posted a picture of her that kind of, I think, almost unintentionally looked like she was on Survivor because she was next to a tiki torch. And so she was like, I am so excited to announce that I'm on Survivor next season. So many people flooded her comments and her texts thinking she was telling the truth. And even we had graduated from high school already, but apparently there was an announcement made the next day at our high school saying that she was going to be on
Wow.
Survivor.
Everyone was pranked. Nicole did a great job.
She did, she did. And I was fully in on it. I was with her when she posted, and I helped fool. So that was really funny.
Yeah. And you have a nice t-shirt as well. What is
Yeah,
that
so I'm wearing
from?
one of my Survivor t-shirts. I have another one that I got. I think it was the 40th anniversary celebration shirt, and I have another like long sleeve one, but it's very hot outside, so I'm not wearing that one. But
Yeah, you just order online.
yeah, I don't remember where this one's very old. I don't exactly remember where I got it, but I know the 40th anniversary one. Yeah, bought it at the CBS store.
Yeah, cause I when I was ordering this, like, I didn't realize, like, how much gear and how much merch they actually have, like, for Survivor fans out
Yeah, I
there.
know I have a voting pen.
Yeah,
I wish I had found that so I could show it, but I have yeah some other little trinkets and things, and a bunch of old seasons on DVD that I have right here with me.
nice.
Yeah, so that's
Ooh,
Lord
exciting.
Millennials.
Yeah, so I guess that can go into our first point of just how we've been watching Survivor. I know you've been
Yeah.
watching it for a while, so how many years? What was the first season you watched?
So I started the first episode I remember watching was weirdly the finale of the season
Oh,
of Survivor All Star season 8, which was 2004, meaning I was 9 years old at the time. Um, I it was on TV. It was a live finale, and it was for those of you who watched back then. That was a very talked about, very controversial finale because it was the All Star season, like I said, and Jerry Manthe, who's one of the original Survivor, one of the original reality TV villains, I think you could say, is from season 2 of Survivor, and she was booed off the live finale, the live reunion stage
my
by
god.
the audience that was there. And so I just remember watching that moment, and I was like, "What is this?"
At 9 years old.
Yeah. And so that was, and then I think I watched the Big Brother season that following year, so Big Brother 5 that summer, right after that finale. And then, at the time I had already, like I said, been watching American Idol for a couple of years, so I was kind of already in the reality TV game a little bit. And then I don't really remember watching season 9, but season 10, Palau was the first full season that I remember watching live week to week. And that was a really great season. And that one was really the one that got me hooked. And ever since then, every episode, every season, I have watched at least once. And many, now that they are all streaming, I have DVDs from probably the first, gosh, 20 something seasons and then a bunch of other random ones. And yeah, a huge Survivor fan ever since then. What about you, Molly?
Yeah, so I was thinking back and I remember watching in high school and I was like, which is this first season that I started with? And looking into it, it was season 30, Worlds Apart, which the reason why I remember it was that season was because I remember Joe
Mhm.
on that season, and I was, like, impressed with, like, all of his athleticism
Oh
and, like, all
yeah,
the stuff that he was able to accomplish, but then he didn't even make it that far. But, he made it to the jury at least.
yeah.
Um,
He's been to the
so
jury a
I
couple
remember
years.
that, and then but I feel like after that, like, I watched a decent amount of the seasons after that, but there were some that I had skipped in between. But then when I was in college and you're in college at the same time for a year, like, I remember we watched together and that was really fun because, like, I was, like, able to watch it more with someone who, like, knew a lot more about it, and I was like, "Wait, like, this is actually, like, such a good show," and, like, I mean, I knew it was a good show, but, like, talking to you about it just, like, made me more excited to
Yeah.
watch it.
Oh.
So thanks to you, I think I love Survivor even more because of watching it with you or just talking about it,
Yeah.
and so that was really fun as well just because like, it's such a good show to watch with other people too, I feel like. Now, I can talk about for the season, like, every week, like, my friends and I would, like, typically, like, go to each other's places and just watch together, which is really nice because then you can, like, watch and talk about what's happening, and, like, it's nice, like, I feel like Survivor is a really good show to watch with other people too, or just talk about it, because there's so much that can go on in an episode that you're like, "Gotta debrief that." Like, "What just happened?"
Right. No, and Survivor's one show that I feel like is very easy to get people into. You
Yeah.
know, Big Brother, for example, and as a counterpoint, is really tough show to get someone to watch because it's on so often. It can sometimes be very embarrassing if you're watching like people in chicken costumes running around a fake backyard. Like
Yeah, that
it,
caught me off guard the first time that happened.
yeah. So I think Survivor's on the other side of that is just a really good show. Like it's a good quality show. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's one of those shows that I'm not just like embarrassed to tell people I watch. Like it's it can sometimes, especially in recent seasons, be very confusing, I think, with all the twists and all the, advantages and idols and everything. It can be kind of difficult to understand, I think, for someone who doesn't watch, but once they get into it, once they kind of understand it, all of that,
Mhm.
then they really, you get invested. And the storytelling, I think, is just so impressive and really
Yeah.
keeps you guessing, and it gets you really emotionally attached to the contestants. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's a really good show, like you said, to watch with friends and to build a community around.
Yes, for sure. So what are your thoughts on this season overall? And we have seen the whole season now, so we can really put
Yeah.
our pieces together of saying like, okay, this is how the season went, and like this is how it ended. Like, what are your thoughts
Right.
overall?
Yeah, no, I wanted to wait till the end to talk about this because I feel like once the season is over and you have a little time to digest it, you really can kind of look back and think of it as a whole like this, which is harder to do, I think, when it's still going on.
Mhm.
But I thought when we started out the season, the pre-merge, I would say, really, and then the first like week or two into the merge, even, I was like, why why did Jeff hype up this season so much? Because it's a great cast. You could tell from the beginning. You got Carolyn, Jam Jam, Carson, all the Ratu or the Tika. Um and I think though the twists were so heavy in the first half that it took over the season, and it was like, gosh, I really wish these people would just play. But once you got to the post merge and they really stopped with all those twists, it really became a fantastic season. And the characters really were able to help to to make the season. Everyone was so likable, and it made it so hard to every week. It was like, no, I don't want you to go, but I don't want you to go either. And I think that, yeah, overall, now looking at it as a whole, I think it was a really, really good season and definitely the best new era season since COVID and since, 41 kind of started this new era. And I think of these four that have aired so far, it's my favorite by a mile. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought the season was really great. From the beginning, what you're saying about like the twists and turns, like some of that was just like, okay, like this wasn't necessarily that needed in this moment, but I just really like the people overall of like the cast of this show or this season in particular. I feel like everyone was great, and I loved. In particular, we already know Carolyn, like she's a star. Like she's
Uh,
just amazing. She
Incredible.
she pretty
One of
much
the
carried the
best.
season. Also, I mean, she didn't totally, but like her if she was not on every episode, like, I don't know if it would have been as entertaining.
Agree.
Um, but so that was also a plus, like, you going into the first very first episode, she was, like, the first person to speak saying, like, "Wait, what do I say?" And then, like,
I
from that moment
know.
on, you're like, "Who is Carolyn?" Like, then you know, immediately, you're like, "Okay, you gotta
Um,
follow her."
yeah, and I feel like, seeing the comparison between like that confessional in episode one and then like her last one and in the
Yeah.
finale was really a perfect bookend to the season.
Yes. So for people who did not watch, Yam Yam was actually the winner of this season. So overall, what are your thoughts on that? I know I loved Yam Yam overall throughout this season, but I was a little bit shocked at the end that he came out with like a pretty much unanimous vote.
Mhm.
But I don't know. What do you think?
I was not surprised that he won of
Okay.
the final three, but I was surprised going into the final tribal. I thought that Carolyn had a chance, or at least was
Mhm.
like basically I thought guaranteed to be second over Heidi. I think where Carolyn went wrong was her final three speech and answers were too emotional versus
Yeah.
really highlighting the moves that she made strategically. Because I think, and especially from watching and listening to podcasts and interviews that the jury and the rest of the cast has done since the season ended, it seems like a lot of them didn't realize a lot of what Carolyn was doing, that they didn't necessarily have a lot of strategic conversations with her because she
Yeah.
kind of kept with Jam Jam and Carson. And so a lot of them just kind of thought that maybe she was being carried a bit more than she actually was. And so I think that's where she went wrong, was not realizing that people had that impression and highlighting more of what she did strategically and kind of trying to pull on the heartstrings didn't work as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because when I was hearing, like, each of them speak, I was like, "Carolyn, speak more, like, share
Yeah,
more about what you're saying." But you could definitely tell, like, that she wasn't as confident in what she did, or, like, she didn't know exactly how to express it, versus where Jam Jam and Heidi, like, Heidi did a great job speaking about what she did, even though it wasn't, like, as
good.
impressive. But, like, she also, like, had a good point at the end of, like, making the fire and all that stuff, but, um I think that Jam Jam did deserve to win overall out of those 3, but I kinda wish Carolyn got at least 1 vote.
I do too. And I kind of thought Carson was going to vote for her because it seemed like he was kind
Yeah.
of coaching her.
Oh, I know, I saw him, like, being like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah, and so I kind of thought like, oh, that shows that Carson is pulling for her and wants her to answer as best as she can, which I'm sure he did, but I kind of thought that would result in a vote, but it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it didn't really matter anyways.
No,
Everyone
I mean it did, I guess just in the history books of having her third versus tied for second, but
Oh,
it
true.
doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, I was glad that this jury didn't have the importance of the fire making, putting, Heidi putting
Oh,
herself in fire making as the 43 jury did.
yeah, I was about to say, I don't think the fire making did that much good for Heidi, but it did definitely make another point to her resume that she didn't
Yeah.
really have.
I think, of course, the fact that now, it, hindsight's 2020, knowing that she won, great. Yeah, and she did the fastest of anyone in history, which is
Yeah.
wild. And I mean, certainly a huge point for her resume. But I'm glad that if that had gotten her the win, I don't think that would be a good precedent to set for future seasons because basically it would show that that's the most important thing and that anyone who doesn't do that is screwed. So,
Yeah, no, and yeah, that I feel like the fire, we can talk about that too. I feel like it's not like, why do they keep doing that? As in, like, that's how you have to get in, or like that's a big
yeah,
move. Like, I don't know why that has to be such a big move
right.
in that end there, because like the fire is just one aspect. Like Carson, like I felt bad for him, even though like he did like he knew, like, he was like, "Okay, like, this isn't my strongest thing," but then that's what made him not make it to the final 3, which, like, is upsetting because like, he played such a great game, and I love Carson, and then that's how he goes out. It's just because
Yeah,
he can't make a fire as fast. I mean, like,
I
he made a
know.
fire, like, he did a great fire, but he just couldn't make it as fast as Heidi
Right.
did.
And on one hand, I get it that that is now a known part of the show. And so anyone who goes into the show now knows to practice that, knows to, have that skill going into it. So it is fair game in that sense that it's a predictable part of the game. Everyone knows it going in, everyone has the same opportunity to prepare for it. I wish it wasn't there
Yeah,
because the point of the show is that there's, it's equal parts, well, I guess maybe not equal, but it's all parts, physical challenges. That's the way you can save yourself, in the game. But then there's also the strategic part of it. And the strategic part of that vote in the final four is so diminished because of the fire making that you cannot save yourself by just, being
smart.
good
Yeah.
strategically in the game. and I feel like, first they took away the final two and made it a final three and took away that vote. Then you take away the final four vote by making it a fire making. And so now the last regular vote is all the way at final five. And I Jeff's justification for that is, oh, well, all these big favorite players were getting out at Final Four, Final Three because they were such big threats. And it's like, well, then make yourself less of a threat. That's on you, If you make it to the point where you have to win immunity or you're out, then that's a flaw in your game. And, even if you were a great player, you didn't do well enough to not make yourself a target at that late in the game. And I just think that the show, in my opinion, was better in those late stages when it was just, a regular vote at that point. But it's been going for a while now. So
Yeah, when did that shift over? I'm trying to think back
season
if I even saw.
35.
Okay,
It
so it was, like, in the beginning of when I started watching.
Yeah, so it was oh my God, the fans are gonna eat me alive for not remembering his name.
I can look it up on Wikipedia.
Um, it was, yeah, they did not know going into season 35 that that was going to be changed at the final four. Because it used to be just a tie in the case of a tiebreaker at final four, there was a fire making. So that was an element of the game that late, for quite a while before that, but it wasn't a required part of the game until season 35.
That was Heroes versus Heroes
Yeah,
versus
what is his name? Oh my God. He's been on the challenge. Da- um oh my God.
Ben.
Ben, thank you. A lot
Yeah.
of people thought that that twist was kind of made for Ben
Yeah.
to survive and win that season. I don't think that. I think Survivor is one of the rare shows that I truly, truly believe every twist is thought out well in advance of the season and is not made for any one individual player. I
Mm.
don't think that. A lot of people did think that at the time that twist was made for him. But that was the first season.
Interesting. Yeah, so for overall this season, what would you say is your favorite moment or memories from the cast or just in general from the season?
I mean, we talked about it. I just think Carolyn, everything Carolyn, I absolutely love her. She is one of the best reality TV personalities in a very long time that I've seen come out of a show like this. She's and it will be a travesty if we don't see her on a future season.
I know.
um, but I also think, you know, Carson kind of broke the game by doing these 3D printings of all the challenges.
Yeah, he was so good at those
Yeah.
puzzles.
Oh my God, that is I I think that because of Carson and the way that he was able to do that, I think that the show has to now change a lot of their challenges to not be, so repetitive season after season because otherwise more and more people are going to be doing that. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that isn't a bad thing. If now a lot of you're going to have multiple people 3D print challenges and prepare them in advance, maybe that's just the new game, is that's kind of an expected thing that some people will do that. But gosh, what other from the season? What are some of yours, Molly? You'll probably spark some memories.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of specific times. I think, well, just like anytime like Carolyn's reactions. Oh, okay. This one was when during the tribal when she was like hungry and like looking annoyed at people around her, and then Jeff was like, "Oh, so like, are you annoyed?" And then she like gave him a look, and he
Oh
was
yeah.
like, "Oh, so now you're annoyed with me?"
Right, right.
That one was funny because I feel like we don't get to see like the castaways like as much like interacting with Jeff as much like,
Right.
or we kind of get it, but like this time I was like Oh, like, this is funny, like, they're like she's,
People
like,
being really
making fun.
honest with, like, their
Yeah,
reactions to that's something that we've seen more of, I think, even going back to season 41, I believe it was, where they announced the, hourglass twist. Remember the change history twist?
yeah,
And someone said, very honestly that they didn't think it was a fair twist.
mhm,
And I loved that because I feel like you don't get that a lot on these shows where people are very honest in that moment. A lot of times on podcasts or interviews afterwards, they'll say, "Oh, I didn't think that was fair." But in the moment, they don't say that on the show, or at least they don't show it.
yeah.
And I like that they did show, now I feel like they're really more open to showing honest reactions like that, and people are more willing to be honest in that way. And I really like that.
Yeah. No, I really loved, like, pretty much, like, every single member of the cast in this season, which I don't think
I did
is the
too.
usual thing,
Do
and so
you
that
think
was really great because, like, even though, like, I had strong feelings mostly towards, like, Jam Jam and Carolyn and Carson, because I love the Tika 3 that, like, they
right?
just overcame a lot and, like, were able to, like, then kinda turn the game around, like, be in the lead or be in the powerful position there, but I just, like I feel like we didn't get to see all that much of everyone else, which happens in these shows, like, you're not gonna get to know every single person, but when we did, I was like, "Oh, like, they're a great person too."
Oh, and
Like
I almost forgot Franny and Matt's relationship.
yeah, no, I was gonna mention
I
them next.
like
I
it.
love Franny and Matt together, and I'm so happy because Franny she kind of made him leave in a way, like, if she didn't win in that, competition that
Yeah,
day,
I
like
don't know why she won that one.
yeah,
She didn't need to, and it basically sent him home. You're right.
yeah, but honestly, it probably was okay. I mean, she didn't get barred after that much, but it was probably better for her game overall to, like, not have that, like, target of, like, "Oh, they're a duo."
Right.
Um,
Right, that's true.
but yeah, I just when seeing them, they were the only 2 people, like, out of, like besides Tika, like, they were the only 2 people that we actually got to know in
Hmm.
the season prior to merge, I feel like,
Definitely.
'cause no one else really went to tribal. So seeing them, like, every time they would show their tribe, like, together and, like, laughing and just, like, was so happy, and I feel like in my seasons that I've watched, I don't think I've ever seen a couple out of Survivor.
There's not many. There have
Yeah.
been, back in Survivor China, you had Jamie and her boyfriend that I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, guys. I'm so bad with names. Just in general, I'm so bad with remembering names. So I apologize to everyone listening who's screaming at their computer. Uh, but yeah, I mean, like, there's been kind of in the earlier seasons, especially like little showmances, Amanda and Ozzy on Micronesia. You've had Whitney and Keith on South Pacific. A lot of them that have been successful after the show. Oh, Boston Rob and Amber,
Boston,
the
yeah.
most famous of all, of course. So there's been showmans, but I feel like not in a long time. That's not a and Joe and Sierra that are still together. But
Yeah.
that wasn't really so much on the show as
Yeah,
much
they
as
met after.
after. So I feel like that's a lot of Survivor relationships don't necessarily get serious until afterwards. But something that has been on social media recently that I wanted to bring up is, and this is just really in the last day or so that I've been seeing this, is this call for Survivor to bring back villains. That this last, the new era casting has been a lot of super fans, a lot of nerdier types, but there hasn't been as many actual villains on the show or as many, kind of these archetypes that we used to have in the earlier seasons. Is that something you miss, or do you like the fact that now they're casting basically exclusively super fans?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I don't think I miss it, to be
You
honest.
don't either.
Like, I appreciate the more wholesome content, that we're experiencing now with the super fans, and just, like, I feel happier for the people, like, I'm not, like, angry at anyone for, like, winning a challenge or something, like, I feel like it just overall, like, I feel, like, enjoyment from watching that, so I don't need the villain to be there and be, like, causing drama or, like, doing all that stuff to make the show, I guess, with more drama. I don't know what I guess it, like, it adds to it and just, like, allows different layers to the show overall, but I do like just having, like, the people that we've been having lately.
No, I agree. I think that's what really sets Survivor apart to me from a lot of other shows like The Bachelor, where The Bachelor you have your one villain who has no other side to them shown. That Shanae, for example, in a couple years ago on The Bachelor, like you saw nothing from her besides drama, besides everyone else hating her. That was her one side. And on Survivor, even villains back in the day really had more sides to them than that. But these days, I feel like everybody gets a very well-rounded edit, and I like that. That this season, there's an account that on Twitter. I don't know if they have an Instagram, and I can't remember their handle, so I apologize. But they have a confessional counter for everybody, and they compare, season to season, how even the spread is between the cast. And this season was very, very even, one of the most even. And I love that because you do get to see sides of of everyone, whether you don't get to see them really in the beginning, maybe if their tribe doesn't lose a lot of challenges and go to tribals. But even just getting to know someone better post merge, like I feel like Heidi and Jamie and Lauren, you didn't get to see a lot of them for probably the first, I would say, even 3/4 of the season. But at the end, because they made it really far, you did get to know them by the end. And I appreciate when everyone feels like a well-rounded human and not a villain or a hero
Yeah.
exclusively. Because I feel like that just feels more real, and it feels like you really do get to know them better than you do on other shows, I feel like. And that's something I appreciate always about Survivor.
Yeah, for sure. So, stick with the trend, Survivor. Don't cast the villains.
And we like the super fans because,
Yeah.
sorry to keep going on this, but the super fans allow the show to keep evolving because
Yeah.
they're not going to make the same stupid mistakes that others have in
Mhm.
the past who've never seen the show before. And that's something that I always kind of hate about Big Brother is that they passed all these people who have never heard of the show and have seen one season. And so they just use the strategy of the winner from that one season that they watched, and they make all these stupid mistakes that everyone else has made in the past. And so it doesn't allow the strategy to evolve as much as it has on Survivor. And that's something that I think is very important to the longevity of a show.
Yeah. No, definitely. So, I mean, they keep on telling everyone who's watching the show to apply. So I'm sure like everyone who's watching it, like they're really trying to get people to apply who do watch the show.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I'm sure they get lots of applicants of Survivor fans, so they have to sift through that. So out of the people who are applying, they're also getting those people like primarily
Right.
probably.
And
So it just makes sense.
they don't recruit anymore to the best of
Yeah.
my knowledge. Whereas there have been seasons in the past where, you know, 16 out of the 18 were recruited, I think, or something to that effect, back in the Cook Islands, Fiji era. And now they don't do that to the best of my knowledge at all anymore, and only cast applicants, which I love, and I think that's
Yeah.
how every show should be.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, so that's I mean, it's just interesting to see like how different reality shows do that though, because I mean, for The Bachelor, like they would never not have a villain. I feel like.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, well, this past season, I don't think there was that big of a villain with Zach season, but for
and it
most
was really
seasons,
boring.
yeah, so it was boring. Like people don't want to
Yeah,
watch.
but I think
So
that's a different type of show, also in a lot of ways. Where, and I don't like the fact that the villain on The Bachelor even is so one dimensional. I feel like it because then it's very predictable that okay, they go on Paradise and you see a totally different side of them. And it's like, well, was that how they were all along, and we just didn't see it? It just makes it feel so incredibly edited and produced.
yeah, that's what I don't like. And I feel like in Survivor, like of course, yeah, there's producers, but it doesn't feel fake. Like,
Right.
sometimes I feel like The Bachelor just feels very fake.
It does.
And but Survivor, I mean, yeah, like, there are producers, there's cameras, obviously, but that seems so real, and what they're experiencing is, like, really hard to experience because I could not imagine living out on an island for 26 days without any food pretty much, and just, like, no sleep, like, sleeping outside, like, all that stuff, like, they're going through real things,
Yeah.
and they have to experience that and be shown on camera for that.
Yeah.
But it's just overall, like, I feel like, yeah, producers can, like, talk to you and, like, hear you like, ask you certain questions, like, trying to get details out of you, but it's just way different from, like, the other shows that
Well, and
producers are
I
on.
think it's a testament to how strong the format is.
Yeah,
Because The Bachelor, I think, is a format that can be very boring if you don't have a cast of people who have interesting dynamics with each other. Whereas Survivor, the format of the game is lends itself to be interesting every season without a lot of production interference because there's going
yeah,
to be interesting strategies. You're going to have to vote people out. Whereas The Bachelor, I feel like, it's always possible that the lead can very quickly know who the one person is who they're going to choose, or, maybe two or three people who they have much stronger connection with. And it can be very obvious. And then if the rest of everyone else just kind of gets along, there's not a whole lot to show that's very interesting.
yeah,
So I think that producers of Bachelor feel like they have to kind of poke and prod people to kind of fight with each other and be catty because there's not a whole lot else to show other than that. Where Survivor just doesn't have to in order to make an interesting show. And so I
yeah.
think the stronger formats don't need as much producer manipulation and interference.
Yeah, overall, I feel like that makes Survivor just an amazing show, and that's why we love it.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so going back into this finale episode, what did you think about the general the finale? I know like there's always a lot that happens and like with potential idols or just stuff like when with the vote of sending Lauren home, what did you think over that? And do you think she found an idol before tribal or overall just like
I
general?
did think that she had found one. I this is where they got me, and it's I hate even admitting that they got me because I shouldn't be falling for this any stuff anymore. But I really did think going into that tribal where Lauren was voted out, I thought that she had found an idol because they didn't show, they showed her getting really
Yeah,
close to it and they showed it up in the tree and then they cut away. And the way
that
that
would
she
have been good editing.
it really was. And the way that, she was kind of talking at the beginning of that tribal, kind of almost hinting that she had one, I was like, gosh, did she find it? But then as she got emotional and saying like, "Oh, this is gonna be my last one," blah blah blah. And when she really actually got emotional about it, I was like, "Okay, I don't think this is fake. I think she really didn't find it." And by the time it actually got to the vote, I was pretty confident that she didn't have one.
Also, yeah, well, that tribal also kinda confused me when Jam Jam and Carson were, like, saying, like, we gotta make some moves or, like, send someone home." Like, it almost sounded like they were talking about Carolyn,
Yeah,
but and, like, all the conversations that were happening leading up to it, like, you really didn't know what was gonna happen. And, I mean, I watched this, like, delayed a little like, I didn't watch it until yesterday, and I didn't get spoiled, but I did know that she didn't get eliminated there, so, like, I knew, like, it wasn't gonna happen, but, like, the conversations that were happening, I was just like, "This is interesting that they're showing this," and then I mean, I guess they were just trying to trick us,
yeah.
but
You don't want to make it too obvious, but
yeah,
yeah, I was convinced for a little while. So good job,
yeah,
editors.
I know. They do a really good job at editing
Yeah.
for Survivor.
Um, we kind of talked a little bit about Carolyn's performance at Final Tribal, but what did you think of Jam Jam and Heidi there?
Yeah, I think that Jam Jam, his ability of speaking about, like, the emotion side of it was really interesting because I feel like I did see him having those conversations of, like, getting to know people and, like, those, but, like, seeing that that was really his strategy to then know if he was being lied to or all that kinda stuff was, like I think that was really impactful for people to see because that's not necessarily something that you would notice. When you're talking to someone, you're just like, "Oh, they're being nice, they're trying to get to know me," and then he's, like, reading you.
Yeah.
But so I really enjoyed that aspect of what he was talking about, like, I feel like he spoke well overall of his strategy and how he voiced that he wasn't just following with Carson, like, had his own, like when people were voting for him, like, he made sure, like, those people got out
Mhm.
after, and so I think he really did, like, have a good strategy and really did play the game really well. Heidi, I think she was kinda grasping at some straws, like, with, like, the overall, she kept on highlighting the fire making, and, like, as we know, we don't love that, but, I think she just, like, was really holding on to that and didn't really share as much about other things. Like, I think because she was, like, basing it off of, like, oh, like, from the season what was season the fire maker one?
Well, no, because
Oh.
season 43 filmed, like, right before
Oh,
43.
so she doesn't
They
know
had not
that.
seen 43 yet.
Okay, so she just thought fire is a big deal, and, like,
Yeah.
she
Which
just
it had been even before
it
that,
yeah.
with, uh, Mike Underwood, who won, Island of the Idol or, sorry, Island of Extinction. He had to do the fire because he was out of the game for 32 of the 39 days or something. And so, yes, him winning he had to put himself in fire making in order to show something. And I think people kind of forget that he was out of the game for so long, which is why he did that. And people kind of have thought of how important that fire making is ever
Yeah.
since then. And so I think Heidi's
So
one of it.
Heidi had to do that, like, if she also I mean, she did win that immunity from that last challenge, which is also impressive because that it's in itself,
Chris
like, that
Underwood, not Mike
secures your
Underwood.
spot.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry, I knew that didn't sound right. Sorry.
Oh, what did you say?
I got his name. Chris Underwood, not Mike Underwood.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, "I didn't know it was Mike." Chris. Yeah, no, I remember that season was drama too, though. But, with Heidi winning and then, like, putting herself then into the position of, like, vulnerability of then having to make fire to get into that spot again, I think that does show risk and, like, does it is a valuable move if you think that's, like if you're going up against people who aren't as strong,
Yeah.
but Jam and Carolyn, I think, were just stronger players overall in general, so, like, she didn't really have as much of weight there.
Right. I think it's one of those things that if you feel the need to do that, you probably don't have a strong enough game that you're confident in
Yeah,
that you feel like you need that on top of it.
yeah,
So I think that if someone did that, that's kind of how I would think of it on the jury.
mhm,
But there are people you kind of have to think like even if it's not something that you think is important, you have to think, are these jurors going to think that's important? Is that maybe something that we talked about earlier in the season as, an important part of the game? Like I'm sure these people have these conversations about things like that, and you have to kind of think back to that and know the jury well enough to know whether that's going to be something that enough of them are going to value that it's going to make a difference.
yeah. Definitely. Well, overall, I was very pleased with the outcome with Jam winning just because he's a great player and I just love him. I remember in our very first episode, I feel like I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love Jam." Like he was just like
Yeah.
so much fun to watch and like we're always talking about Carolyn, but like Jam and Carolyn together, like
Oh my
they
God.
were just the best duo.
If they are not on the Amazing Race together,
Oh my
that is
gosh.
a fail of CBS casting because they have got to do Amazing Race together.
That would be amazing. And do you think Carson will go on Amazing Race as well?
Yes, that's a Carson's my third. If either of Carolyn or Jam Jam won't do it, I think they need to ask Carson to go with the other one of them because two
Yeah,
of
well,
those three
Carson
need
could
to
also
do it.
go with someone else if he had with, Side
You could also
Story is
have
my friend.
Matt and
Uh,
Franny on Amazing Race
oh,
team together.
Fun and Franny would be good.
Be good.
My friend Shauna, who I told you I was wearing the Survivor bus with, she wants to go on Amazing Race so much, and she DM'd Carson being like, "Hey, I
Oh,
would be a great
wow.
partner to you." So we'll see if Carson, if you're listening to this, message
Yeah,
Shauna back.
update us next week.
Yeah, I know.
Also, I
He
wanted
hasn't responded yet, but it's probably because he's getting so much love right now
oh,
in
I'm
like
sure. Yeah,
DMs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also wanted to bring up just kind of a last thing that Sia, as people might
Yes.
know, gives money to her favorite players every season. They used to do, back in the day, they used to give $100,000 to America's favorite player. There would be a vote. They stopped doing that a while back, and so ever since they stopped, Sia has every season given money to, a few of her favorite players. And this season she gave $100,000 to Carolyn, which if you watch her interview with Rob Has a Podcast, she popped up midway through and gave her the money. It is worth the watch. Carolyn is is the most Carolyn she's ever been. She's like she keeps saying like, I can't believe I thought you were AI or something. I didn't think this was real you. She just
I
kept
love
kind of
hearing.
saying that over and over again, which is funny. Um,
That's so funny.
and she also gave money to who else did she give to? Lauren, she gave some money to, and Carson.
Okay.
And apparently Carson is like the biggest Sia fan, which I think is
Oh, that's so funny.
hilarious.
Oh yeah, seeing at the oh sorry, this is related to like the finale again, but I was thinking about like the reunion, what happens like right after when they literally announce the winner
Oh,
and then
right, right, right,
they
right.
talk to each other like right after this happens. Like, what are your thoughts on that? 'Cause I know we used to have like, oh, months later when they come out live. Now with COVID, they have just started changing it to the read the votes there. And I thought it was like interesting just to see like all their perspectives just like right in that moment. Like I feel like if they had time to process it a little more, responses might have been a little bit different. But overall, like, I mean, I think it's good that they talk there and like they hear about it. But I think that Carolyn didn't get as much time to shine in that moment. Like I think if
Yeah,
there was time, that's what I knows for particularly for me because I was like, I want Carolyn to speak more because like, and I want like the cast more to appreciate what she did. And I feel like we
right.
didn't get that in the last episode as much, or especially like at the very end of the last episode that much. And I mean, at least now, like, I mean, obviously Sia gave her money, but like I wanted to see more of what the cast members would have to say about Carolyn now, and we have interviews and stuff that's gonna come out, but like overall, like I wish there was somewhat of a delay in that reunion just because of that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't mind the after show, right in the moment as but I wish it was in addition to a live reunion.
Yeah.
Because I think the problem I have with it, I want them to just have one day off. Like, you know, give the final three just a night to sleep, to get out of their, dirty clothes and everything, and just give them 24 hours before doing the after show. I would be okay with that. I think though, I wish that there was also a live or even just like it doesn't even have to be live. I don't care if it's in front of the audience. I don't care if they wait to announce the winner. All of that I don't care about. I would like there to be some sort of 20, 30-minute reunion that is, after everyone's seen the episodes, after they've had a chance to watch each other's games and reflect back on it. I want to hear, people who maybe didn't get along on the show, like, whether that's carried on after the show or whether, if they've made up or just having, like something like Jamie's reaction to the idol, to finding out her idol was fake, I thought was great. And I liked that fact of having an after
Yeah.
show. But then, I want to see everyone else's reaction to it, like after the season's aired and all these things that people may not have known about and whether people's votes would have changed if they had seen Carolyn's game or, just things like that where they used to do back in the day. It's like, well, if this person and this person had switched and been in the final three instead of this person, like how many votes would they have gotten? Everyone raises their hand. Like that kind of stuff was really interesting, and we don't get to do that as much right after the fact. So
Yeah.
I think both would be nice, even just on Paramount Plus. It doesn't have to be aired. Just put it the following day on Paramount Plus, and I think that would be a smart thing for them to do to get more subscribers. But
Yeah, no, I would get Paramount Plus just to see that.
yeah,
But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm very happy with the season and this and what happened overall. But I think we do have some critiques we have to share, with
yeah,
overall
no,
with this
I
season.
think you know, going into next season, I just hope that they saw how good this season was
Yeah.
in the second half.
Yeah.
Once they actually got to play the game, it was so much better. And I just hope that they see that and kind of pull a little bit back on the twists and advantages and all that stuff. Because when it becomes the focus of the episode, that's when the show kind of loses itself a little bit and doesn't it isn't its best. And so I just hope that they trust their cast more to create an interesting season without having to force all these twists upon
Yeah. So speaking of next season, they did show a preview
them. Yes.
of that, which we don't really get to see much because they will only show you like the very beginning of it. But what are your thoughts overall on that? Do you have any? Or just
I'm excited for the 90-minute episodes. I know we talked about that a few weeks ago that next season's going to have 90-minute episodes throughout the whole season. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be interesting, like we talked about before, kind of where they're going to allocate the that time to. I hope
yeah.
it's to see more of the strategy, more of the relationships between everyone to give people who maybe, on the tribes that don't go to tribal council often, to give them more time for character development before the merge. And I hope they show more of that and they don't fill it with even more advantages. I'm not super hopeful based on the track record recently, but but I hope if they can do it right, 90-minute episodes will be fantastic. So I'm
Yes.
excited. I think casting these last few seasons has been the strongest point of the show, so I'm sure that will continue. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm excited as well because I feel like within an hour episode, it's really hard to get to see everything that goes on. Especially like I was thinking about back on this season of all the people that are on this season, and like I don't even know if I could name every single cast member at this point because it's like in the beginning you barely get to see them and you don't remember
Right.
who they were. But I would rather like want to get like I mean, yeah, maybe the first person I wouldn't remember, but like after that, like I kind of want to know like who these people are, like remembering like the seasons as I was looking back at like the past seasons I'd watched. I'm like, oh, I forgot they were even on that season. Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing that I want to know more about the people. And I feel like in other shows, like we were saying, like Big Brother and Bachelor too, like you really get to see the people more. I feel
Mhm.
like and just their interactions with each other. And I really want to see that more with Survivor because I love the contestants on the show. So I want to know them better than we have seen them previously, I would say.
I always say it with Big Brother, Survivor, it probably takes about half the season before I actually can name every
Yeah.
person. Whereas Big Brother, by the first eviction, I feel like I know everybody's name and their social security number by that point. Like, I feel like I know everything about them from the feeds and just all the live updates and whatever. Like, you feel like you just know everything about these people so quickly. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I hope that that's how they spend that time is to let us get to know them better, to give us more screen time with each of these people so that we do feel a connection to them earlier on in the season. Because I think that
Yeah.
will really help to make the episodes a lot more well, to kind of up the stakes watching it is because you really get invested.
For sure. Well, I think that's it. Do you have any other final thoughts? Would you ever
No,
go
I
I
think
know we've talked about this before. I know you say you don't, but would you ever apply to be on Survivor to even go through an interview?
not a chance.
Okay.
Not Survivor. Hell no. I would not last an hour out there. Big Brother, yes, 100%. The Circle, yes. Not Amazing Race fan. um, yeah, I love Survivor. Couldn't do it. Would you?
I don't think so. I always think about it, I'm like, "Okay, like, maybe I could try it," but then I'm also, on the other hand, like, that seems, like,
Yeah.
painful.
I will say
Um,
26 days, a little bit better than 39 at least. I know they're tougher 26 days allegedly, but I that makes me a little teeny tiny bit more likely to say that maybe I could tough it out, but
yeah.
probably still not.
It's also I feel like people who get onto the show, like, always have, like, such amazing stories, like, all this stuff, and I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
I
true.
don't have something, like, that
I don't
amazing to
either.
share, though, like, I don't think I would get chosen also,
Yeah,
so
that's very true. And that's something that you didn't really have to think about like back in the early days. Like you didn't have to
yeah.
have like a I mean, but that's on average. I mean, American Idol that we were talking about earlier, same thing. Everyone has a sob story. Big Brother, not so much,
Even The
but
Bachelor, people have sob stories,
that's true. Yeah. Hmm.
but it's like, "Oh, I got cheated on." Great. Survivor, they have real, like, in-depth people, which I appreciate,
Right,
like,
right.
watching, then you, like, feel connected to or just, like, wanna root for them. But yeah, overall, I don't know how well I would do just living on the island without any food sources really, or just, like, I feel like I can handle the sleeping situation, like, I can sleep pretty well places, but I think that because you're not getting that much sleep, I think I'd be cranky, so I
Mm.
need sleep to, like, be able to function well, and then if I'm especially if I'm not getting food, I think I just, like, overall wouldn't be in the best mind space and maybe not make it so far, so I don't know if I would wanna go on because then I don't know how far I'd make it.
Yeah. No, I do want to try like those immunity challenges, the endurance challenges. I do want to try those just to see how I would do. But then again, it's so different when they're doing them after not sleeping and eating for, weeks on end.
Yeah,
It's 10, 20 times harder.
and it's honestly impressive how, like, sharp and strategic people can be with that, because I feel like my brain would just be, like, mumbled for, like, half the time I'm there. I mean, I guess they also
Oh,
are showing us, like, the good parts of the conversations that are happening, but I also feel like the people there, like, you have to be really on top of your game pretty
oh,
much all
yeah.
day, and so but I feel like I would just wanna go swimming and, like, enjoy the beach or, like, not really play a game, or, like, talk game as much as maybe other
Yeah.
people would, and then that would put me back, but I don't know. I'm not applying anytime soon, but just putting it out there that I'm not sure how great of a player I'd be.
But Big Brother, put me on. I can stay in a house all for months on end and just stay in bed and eat. I can do that. But
Yep,
no, surviving on an island, not for that.
for sure. Well, thanks so much for listening,
Yeah.
everyone. Let us know your thoughts as you watch the season, or if you haven't watched the season, if you're curious about watching in the future. We probably hyped up Survivor so much in this episode. So ask us any Survivor questions. Well, ask Michael, he knows more about anything Survivor related. And we'll chat with y'all next week.
Yes. Chat with y'all later.